A quick warning before we begin this story isn't for the faint-hearted. What you're about to hear is strictly for entertainment, but it shows just what can happen when live television suddenly becomes a war zone. What do you do when an innocuous interview falls apart in front of an audience of millions? What do you do when the cameras roll and the lights are relentlessly hot, and one careless question transforms a lowly morning show into a very public breakdown? That's exactly what happened on a ho-hum Tuesday, until Hollywood royalty sat down across from America's most beloved host, and the world watched respect evaporate in real time. And the wildest part was that it all unraveled before the first commercial break. Just 38 seconds in, and what was supposed to be a friendly promotional chat exploded into one of the most tense moments daytime TV has ever aired. In those few seconds, laughter died out. Grins went stiff. The whole room froze as a veteran actor decided he'd reached his limit. But how did it get there? Stay with me, because the lead-up is where the storm really starts. That morning, the studio looked picture-perfect. Crisp lights, glossy floors, an audience sipping coffee and waiting for the unmistakable presence of Samuel L. Jackson. He walked in sharp, focused, every inch the seasoned professional people know him to be. Decades of experience at his rear, an ocean of fans watching from home. He had done this routine countless times. Shake hands, trade jokes, talk about the movie, wrap things up. Easy. Sitting across from him was Michael Strahan, the former football powerhouse who has become a favorite on morning shows. Famous for his megawatt smile and effortless charm, which puts celebrities at ease. But behind that cheerful exterior, something else seemed to flicker that morning, something restless. Then came the countdown. 3, 2, 1. And just like that, they were on air. The country tuned in. A pressure settled quietly over the room. Unseen but unmistakable. Everything rolled smoothly at first. Smiles, applause, a perfectly choreographed start. And then, the shift. Stay with me, for that is where tension starts tightening its grasp. Strahan was leaning forward now, his voice friendly, but honed with an edge sharp enough to cut. So Sam, at your age, how much longer can you keep doing those crazy action roles? Instantly, the atmosphere was changed. The room seemed to take one breath and never exhale. Samuel's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly, his jaw locking down. The ease of the warmth he'd brought with him vanished. At that very moment, it was no longer a morning show. It was the crossing of the line on live television. And 38 seconds later, Samuel L. Jackson would do something almost no celebrity ever dares to do with cameras rolling. He would rise, unclip his mic, and walk straight off the set. But to understand why, you have to go back to the instant the day started, when nothing foreshadowed the storm that was in store. The sun wasn't even all the way up, but the Good Morning America studio was already alive. Makeup bulbs hummed softly, casting a warm halo of light around the room. The air was thick with the scent of brewed coffee, pressed powder, and hairspray, the signature perfume of morning television. Crew members moved with quiet precision, tightening cables, testing microphones, and whispering cues. Everything gleamed. Spotless floors, pristine cameras, a polished stage. And beneath all that pulsed the reassuring buzz of live broadcast nerves. Samuel L. Jackson entered with the calm confidence of a man who'd lived this world for decades. Dark suit, sharp tie. That unmistakable energy of someone who could command a room without saying a word. He greeted the staff, settled into his seat, prepared to chat about his brand-new, action-packed film project he was genuinely excited about. 15 minutes, a couple of laughs, a few stories, then out the door. Simple. Across the set, Strahan caught sight of him and just lit up with that famous smile. Former NFL icon, now daytime TV king, his whole aura spoke of warmth, humor, charisma. He strode across the set with the assurance of a man who knew the room was his. Beside him sat Robin Roberts-Steady, aglow with kindness, and George Stephanopoulos, poised and meticulous as ever. Together, they were the well-oiled machine that made mornings feel easy. The audience trickled in, filling the studio with polite murmurs. A producer's voice whispered through headsets in the control room. "We're live in 5. Then the lights flashed on. The countdown started again. 3, 2, 1. "Good morning, America," Michael boomed, perfectly rehearsed. "And welcome back. Joining us today, the one and only Samuel L. Jackson." Applause washed over the room. Samuel smiled, relaxed. This was his territory. He'd done this longer than some crew members had been alive. Michael turned toward him, playing the part of the friendly host with ease. "Sam, your new movie is wild explosions, stunts, the whole deal. You're running, jumping. Man, you're doing everything out there." Samuel laughed, leaning into the rhythm. "What can I say? I've still got a few tricks left." Then came the question from Michael. Same smile, same tone, but the impact? Immediate. "But seriously, Sam, how much longer at your age can you keep all that going?" Silence. Heavy, immediate, unmistakable. Robin's smile twitched. George's eyes dropped to his notes. Somewhere in the audience, someone coughed. And Samuel's face cooled quick. The warmth in his face was replaced by something steely. And that's where the unraveling truly began. Samuel's eyes narrow, barely, but just enough for the camera to seize the moment. "My age," he repeats, slow and controlled, his voice like silk, yet honed with a blade's edge. "I wasn't aware passion came with an expiration date. The subsequent laughter is not real. It rings thin, brittle laughter used to patch silence, not celebrate humor." Robin jumps in immediately, her voice soft and soothing, attempting to wrap the moment in gentleness. "I think what Michael means is, you've been doing this so long, and you still bring that incredible energy. What's your secret?" But Michael waves her off with a smug half-laugh. No, I meant what I said." He leans back, grinning at me. "I mean, Sam's been in the business, what, 40 years? 50? You've got to start thinking about slowing down at some point, right? And that's when the energy in the room shifts. Hard. The brightness seems to dim. The mood thickens, like the air itself is tightening. George shifts in his seat. Robin's hand rises as if to grab Michael's arm, stop him, save him. But she's too late. Sam doesn't respond. At least, not immediately. He sits still, a fraction of a second longer than comfortable. His jaw flexes, small, controlled, but unmistakable. Cameras catch the flicker in his eyes. Anger with restraint. The first fracture forms, minuscule and almost invisible to human eyes. But once you catch it, your gaze can't turn away. The tension hums low, quiet, electric. Everybody feels it, crew, audience, hosts, but nobody says anything. Because something is coming, and no amount of fake morning show cheer can stop it now. The silence stretches out, humming like a live wire. All eyes in the studio fall to Samuel L. Jackson, and everybody waits for what he will say next. He finally speaks. Not loud, not hurried, calm in a manner that the entire room leans forward to hear. "You know, Michael," he says slowly, his every word deliberated, "I've spent decades earning my place in this industry." His voice doesn't rise, but it cuts cleaner than any shout could. Michael laughs. Too loud, too forced. "Ah, come on, Sam. You know what I mean. You are not exactly a young buck anymore." The words might have been harmless on paper, but the smirk ruins them. Robin's hand twitches again. George looks over at the control booth, where the producers are frozen behind the glass. The set's cheerful glow seems to drop a shade. Samuel doesn't smile. His usually lively eyes sharpen. His focus becomes keener. His voice drops lower, heavier and steadier, immensely powerful. "Oh, I know exactly what you mean," he says. He leans forward a bit, the camera catching the intensity. But I'm not convinced you do. The air crackles. Through the audience, nervous laughter flickers, then dies instantly. Michael barreling ahead, oblivious. Look, I'm just saying but what people are thinking. You've had this incredible run. 40, 50 years. That's amazing. But eventually you've got to think about passing the torch, right? Robin tries once more, her voice tight with panic. What we're trying to... Michael interrupts her again, brushing her off, without even looking at her. No, Robin. I'm asking a real question here. And that's the breaking point. Completely, his charm slips. His voice hardens. The friendly host persona evaporates. At what point, he continues, do you look in the mirror and say, maybe it's time to let the younger ones take over? The audience reacts, soft murmurs, uneasy shifting. The vibe of the entire thing has flipped from lighthearted to mortifying. Samuel releases a soft, nasal breath, a warning cloaked in exhalation. His head tilts, eyes locking onto Michael with surgical precision. You sure you want to keep going down this road? He asks softly. Michael shrugs, feigning innocence he doesn't possess. Hey, I'm just being frank. Robin's smile is gone, her tone a tremble. Michael, that's enough. But he gives her no regard whatsoever. What? I can't ask tough questions? Isn't this supposed to be real conversation? George squirms in his chair, clutching his cue cards to the breaking point. He looks like he wants to run. Samuel leans back, his expression unreadable, dangerous in its stillness. Honest conversation is fine, he says. But there's a difference between questions and disrespect. The words struck like a blow. Michael raises his hands as if he's the one being assaulted. Whoa. Hey, I'm not disrespecting anyone. You're being sensitive. Camera zooms in on Samuel. The temperature in the room seems to fall. You're questioning my worth over my age, Samuel says, voice low and icy. That's not honesty, Michael. That's arrogance. The audience sucks in a collective gasp. Somebody whispers. Somebody else covers their mouth. Robin squeezes her eyes shut for a second like she's praying for a commercial break. Michael leans forward, his voice dipping into a defensive bravado. The kind people use when they know they've crossed the line too far, but will never say so. Man, I'm just keeping it real. You can't pretend age doesn't matter. People talk about it. Samuel's mouth goes into a thin line. People talk about a lot of things, he replies. Doesn't mean they know anything. Desperate. Robin tries once more. Gentlemen, maybe we should. Strahan cuts her off again. No, I'm not done. Sam's been doing this forever. People just want to know if you're ready to step back. That's all. The air is now razor thin. Even the camera operators are hesitating to breathe. Samuel's voice goes to granite. You know what, Michael? Maybe learn what respect looks like before you question someone's worth. The audience gasps, sharp, real, immediate. There is even a woman in the front row covering her mouth. Robin freezes mid-sentence. George looks ready to intervene, but doesn't dare. Michael blinks, taken aback, then covers it with a smirk. Wow, he says. Touchy, huh? Didn't know real questions were off limits. Robin's voice trembles. Michael, please. But on he goes, his ego in full control. Some people just can't handle the heat. Samuel doesn't budge. It is a terrible stillness. His eyes remain fixed on Michael, calm and steady, lethal. The silence swells into something alive, suffocating, powerful. Robin leaning forward, almost begging now. Michael, that's enough. But he presses on, oblivious to the portents, impelled by pride rather than judgment. Come on, man, he says. Don't act like you're some untouchable legend. Everyone's got to retire sometime. His eyes narrow just enough for the camera to catch it. My age, he repeats slowly, voice silky but edged with steel. I didn't know passion came with an expiration date. The laughter that follows is hollow, thin, forced, a desperate patch for awkward silence. Robin jumps in quickly, voice soft. I think what Michael means is, you've been doing this so long, and you still bring that incredible energy. How do you keep that up? But Michael waves her off with a half-laugh, tone sliding toward smug. No. I meant what I said. Sam's been at this for decades. You have to start thinking about slowing down eventually, right? In that moment, you can feel the room shift. The brightness dims, the air seems heavier. George shifts uneasily. Robin's hand flicks towards Michael's arm, as if to stop him, but it's too late. Samuel sits back, silent for too long. His jaw tightens. The cameras catch a flicker, disbelief mixed with anger, half hidden, but clear. The first crack appears in the polished veneer. Subtle, but once noticed, there's no ignoring it. Silence hums low and dangerous. Every person on set senses it, though none dare speak. Something is coming, and no amount of on-air charm can stop it now. The pause draws out. All eyes lock onto Samuel L. Jackson, waiting, breath held. Finally he speaks. Measured, deliberate. You know, Michael, he says, syllables falling slow. I've spent decades earning my place here. His voice doesn't raise, but it cuts through the air sharper than any raised tone could. Michael laughs. Too loud, too forced. Come on, Sam. You know what I mean. You're not exactly spring chicken anymore. The words might seem harmless on paper, but the smirk ruins them. Robin's hand twitches again. George looks over at the control booth. The glow of the set dims. Samuel doesn't smile. His always alive eyes sharpen. His voice drops, low and steady and heavy. I know precisely what you mean, he says, hunching forward just enough. But I don't think you do. The air hums with tension. Nervous laughter flickers in the audience, then dies almost instantly. Michael keeps going, undeterred. Hey, I'm just saying what people are thinking. You've had an amazing run, 40, 50 years. That's a hell of a career. But at some point you gotta pass the torch, right? Robin tries again, her voice urgent and kind, but Michael silences her with a dismissive wave. No, Robin, I'm asking a real question here. That's when it breaks. The charm vanishes. The tone hardens. Michael's words shift from playful to pushy. When do you look in the mirror and admit maybe it's time to let the younger ones take over? The audience shifts. Embarrassment. Disbelief, you can feel it. Samuel exhales softly, a slow, heavy warning lifts his gaze, piercing and unwavering. You really want to go there? He asks, incredulous. Michael shrugs, feigning innocence. I'm just being honest. Robin's face goes white. Michael, that's enough. Her voice shakes. He just ignores her. What? I can't ask tough questions? Isn't that what this show does? Real talk, right? George shifts uncomfortably. The producers behind the glass appear to be in a frozen state. Samuel sits back in his chair, at ease, composed. Honest conversation is one thing, he says low and even. But there's a difference between asking questions and being disrespectful. His words land like a punch. Michael's face flashes, defensive. Whoa, I am not disrespecting anybody. You're just being too sensitive. But the camera zooms in. The studio seems to exhale. The temperature drops. You're questioning my worth because of a number, Samuel says. The voice is cold. That's not honesty, Michael. That's arrogance. A caught gasp ripples across the audience as a person covers their mouth. Robin closes her eyes for a moment, perhaps to shield herself from the fallout. Michael leans forward again, voice lower but biting. Man, I'm just keeping it real. Age matters. People talk about it. Samuel's lips thin into a line. People talk about a lot of things, he replies. Doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. Robin tries again, her voice small but firm. "Gentlemen, maybe we should." But Michael talks over her. "No, I'm not done. Sam's been doing this forever. People just want to know if you're ready to step aside." The air is now razor thin. The camera crew hesitates. Even the studio itself seems to hold its breath. Samuel rises slowly, as if deliberately. His silence is louder than a shout could ever be. His eyes lock on Michael. Cold, unblinking, dangerous. "You know what, Michael?" he says quietly. "Maybe learn what respect is before you question someone's worth." The silence falls like the blade of a guillotine. A soft gasp moves across the audience. A collective, stunned gasp. A woman in the front row covers her mouth. Robin freezes mid-sentence. George does nothing at all. Michael blinks in surprise, then gets a forced grin. One that fails. "Wow," he mutters, his tone hollow. "Touchy, huh?" Robin's eyes shine fury and shame and heartbreak all mixed up. "Michael," she whispers. But he shrugs. "What? I just asked a question. And now I'm the bad guy." His voice echoes across the studio. Wide open, empty wrong. George stands up, his voice strained. "Enough," he says through clenched teeth, signaling the control booth. Michael laughs, but there is no sparkle. His confidence has gone. "You saw that," he mutters to the audience. "Hollywood can dish it out, but can't take it." Robin snaps her cue cards on the table. The sound cracks like thunder in the silence. "Enough!" The word hits the air sharp, final. Samuel's footsteps echo on as he walks toward the edge of the set. He doesn't hurry. He doesn't flinch. Every move is calm, dignified. The audience watches wide-eyed as he, a man who's stared down villains, explosions, cinematic chaos, chooses to walk away from something far uglier. Disrespect. Cameras continue to roll. Robin calls after him softly. "Samuel." Her voice breaks. George stands unsure. Michael sinks into his chair, eyes flicking toward the control booth, anger and embarrassment swirling behind his forced grin. "Walk away?" he scoffs bitter. "Real mature, Sam." But Samuel doesn't look back, doesn't wave, doesn't say a word. He doesn't need to. His walk says everything. In that silence that remains, respect claims its space. The studio feels scorched, where brightness and warmth once were. The audience begins to applaud, apprehensive at first, growing, swelling into something real. A few cheers ring out, some uncertain, some supportive, all shaken. Behind the scenes, chaos ignites. Scurrying crew members and producers shouting into headsets, humming lights, tension crackling in the air like static electricity. Robin's eyes fall to her seat, and she rubs her forehead almost as if she's carrying the weight of the years of tension in that moment. Michael, seated stiffly, arms crossed, looks at the desk blankly. The producers glare over at him through the glass. Nobody says a word. Gone is the polite chatter that takes over breaks on a morning show. A muffled question somewhere behind the cameras. "Is he fired?" A quiet answer. "Not yet. But give it a day." Michael stays still. His fingers drum angrily against his thigh. Restless rhythm, angry, humiliated. Robin keeps his distance. George won't look at Michael. The next break starts, but nobody jokes around. Nobody smiles. The vibe is sucked out. The final credits crawl across the screen. The closing lines are read by the host, polished, professional. But the glow is gone. Her eyes burn from exhaustion. Outside, a car drives off in the morning sunlight. The windshield glints. No waves, no goodbyes. Only the echo of a man who didn't shout, didn't yell, but stood up for his dignity, said what had to be said, and walked away. Sometimes silence says more than anything words can. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is to walk away. The words don't appear on the broadcast. They aren't spoken on air. but they manage to live in the collective imagination just the same a truth that the moment alone seems to whisper. And in the morning light, the unspoken line is the thesis of a cultural moment. Commentators say it. Viewers repeat it. Teachers mention it. Strangers quote it. It becomes the quiet heartbeat beneath every headline. In studios, classrooms, offices, living rooms, people replay the clip. Not to watch the confrontation, but to study the exit. The steady stride, the unbroken calm, the refusal to shrink or snap. In a world that rewards outrage, something about that restraint feels rare, radical, almost revolutionary. And at the pinnacle of the media storm, something rather unexpected occurs. The noise begins to shift. It stops being about who was right or wrong. It ceases to be about morning television politics. It ceases being about Michael's ego or the network's panic. It becomes about respect, about the ease with which it is broken and the ferocity with which one must fight to protect and silently reclaim it. Behind closed doors, meetings are going on. Apologies are written, rehashed and trashed. Executives argue. PR men scramble. Reporters lurk. Michael finally stops pacing and settles into a chair, the weight of fallout settling onto his shoulders like wet cement. For the first time since the moment imploded, he looks still. Not angry, not defensive, just stunned, because somewhere deep down, in the space between ego and consequence, even he knows the truth. Samuel did not embarrass him. He made a fool of himself. Across the country, far removed from the chaos, Samuel wakes to sunlight cutting across his room in soft golden stripes. No alarms, no frantic calls, just quiet, peaceful, solid. This is the kind of morning meant for people who spend their days knowing who they are. His phone buzzes, but he doesn't rush to grab it. He stretches. He breathes. He allows the world to talk while he remains still. Because that's the thing about dignity, it doesn't argue. It doesn't chase headlines. It doesn't demand validation. It simply is, there in every steady, undeniable moment. And as the world continues to replay the clip, studying his calm, dissecting his silence, praising his self-respect, one truth becomes clearer by the hour. Sometimes the most iconic moments aren't explosions, aren't shouting matches, aren't dramatic speeches. Sometimes they're just a simple walk toward the edge of a stage, an outstretched hand, silently raising a mic cord, a steady breath, and an option. A choice to rise. A choice to step back. A choice to leave. A choice to say, without saying a single word, this line, right here, you don't get to cross it. And that's why, long after the studio resets, long after social media moves on to its next wildfire, long after networks scramble and executives panic, the moment still lives. Not as scandal, not as gossip, but as a reminder. One America didn't know it needed until the second it aired live. Sometimes you don't win by staying. Sometimes you win when you walk away.